Well, you know, this almost warrants a Fox Business Alert. What the heck? It does warrant a Fox Business Alert. There you go. Wilbur Ross is buying banks. One of the world's shrewdest investors is buying a majority stake in Florida's first bank and trust company, a move some suspect could be a springboard to buy still more banking assets. Is it? Let us ask the man himself, Wilbur Ross, who joins us out of Florida. Wilbur, what are you up to?
Well, I'm having fun being out of the cold in the north, I can
go
tell
ahead,
you that.
rub it in, rub it in.
No, I like this little bank for a couple of reasons. One, it's a clean bank. It has not had the terrible problems that have characterized many banks in Florida and elsewhere. And second, it is in a very interesting geographic area in that it's contiguous to the Seminole Reservation. And the Seminoles, as you probably know, have bought Hard Rock casinos.
Right.
And so they're really on a very good economic roll. And Florida Power and Light has announced that they're going to make Indiantown their center for solar energy development.
So you're not saying, I'm sorry, that this is a vote of confidence in either the Florida real estate market having hit its worst, and you think things are improving, or the banking or financial system there has hit its worst, and you think things are improving. This is a unique play?
Well, it's a unique play, but it segues into the overall problems because what the FDIC likes to do is to close a bank on a Friday night and then have it reopen as something else on a Monday morning. So if you aren't actually a bank, you're not very well positioned to participate in that kind of an exercise. So this bank also would be a very logical one to take on some of the less fortunate banks in its area. This bank is given 3.5 stars. There are many banks in its area with 2 stars, 1 star, no star. So I think it has good interest on its own and also can be a vehicle for consolidation down here.
Yeah, we're getting these reports out of the Wall Street Journal tonight, Wilbur, that they're considering, and this is my interpretation, I could be wrong, but they're considering sort of a clearing or processing house for bad banks, I guess, which would be sort of a modern-day version of the Resolution Trust Corporation, only for the toxic banks. Now, what do you make of that, and how does a play like this fit into that?
Well, I like the good bank, bad bank idea, particularly for the larger institutions, because it's hard enough to manage a very big bank without having a lot of fires to put out at the same time. So I think the idea of segregating into a pool that can be managed by people who understand about troubled assets and then leaving the regular management of the bank to run the healthier part, I think that makes perfectly good sense, and I think you're going to see a lot more of that.
But it sounds like we're going to see a lot more spending for that, too. And you know, I'm beginning to wonder, where does it stop? You know, I mean, it's up to $90 billion now. We've given just Bank of America and Citigroup, and that's not the fraction of it. So I'm just wondering, to what end?
Well, I can see the argument for the really big banks being saved in that they're probably too large for even private equity to save. What I have more trouble understanding is spraying TARP money around among smaller banks that pose no systemic risk to the financial services industry. That, to me, is simply wanton subsidy. And the Federal Reserve and the others doing it are charging much less onerous figures than we would charge in private equity. But worst of all, they're not modifying the behavior at all. They're not requiring changes in the personnel. They're not really reforming the banks. So I think that a lot of the money to the secondary size banks that should never have been spent, I think they should at least have explored whether private equity would come in and take charge of them, as opposed to giving them 5% money with a few warrants.
You know, Wilbur, while I have you here, there's been a very tough week for Treasury Secretary designate Tim Geithner. What do you think of this whole
Yes.
mess about his not paying taxes and then paying them and the whole mess?
Oh, I think it's a tempest in a teapot. I think the real issue is, sure, it was embarrassing to him. I don't think it's a big deal, and I don't think it changes at all the fact that he is extremely well qualified to be Treasury Secretary. As you know from our prior conversations, he's the one that I was really supporting
I remember that.
throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I think it's an unfortunate little blip, but at the end of the day, a guy made a little mistake. If you compare it with the size mistakes that lots of other folks have made, it doesn't amount to anything.
One last number question for you. What is the temperature in West Palm Beach, Florida right now?
It's about 60 degrees. Come on down.
All right. It's 6 degrees here. Go ahead, rub it in.
60.
Always good seeing you, Wilbur. Thank you very much.